Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Comey's departure came unexpectedly, and for a moment you could almost hear official Washington pause, wondering which talking points to use. And then the barking began. Several Democratic senators have already and predictably called the firing Nixonian, as if you were watching something from during Watergate, but you are not. This firing was overdue, and everyone in Washington knows it. Comey recently went to Boston College and said this about his plans to run the FBI. Watch.
Boston College is a leader in thinking and educating on these incredibly important issues. So this is a great place to have it. Hope you'll do it many more times. You're stuck with me for about another 6.5 years, and so I'd love to be invited back again.
Not true as it turned out. Comey repeatedly injected himself into political matters that the country's chief investigative figure should stay out of. In 2015, for example, he came out against police body cams right after President Obama endorsed them, effectively undermining the president. At the height of the last presidential campaign, of course, he held that famous press conference about the investigation of Hillary Clinton, even though he was simply announcing that the FBI lacked enough evidence to support a criminal case against her.
Although the Department of Justice makes final decisions on matters like this, we are expressing to Justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case. I know there will be intense public debate in the wake of this recommendation, as there was throughout the investigation. What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently.
This spring, Comey revealed that the FBI was conducting an investigation into alleged coordination between the presidential campaign of Donald Trump and the state of Russia. In exactly the same hearing, he refused to say if the FBI was investigating illegal anti-Trump leaks in the federal government.
Can you assure them that it is going to be investigated?
I can't, but I hope people watching know how seriously we take leaks of classified information, but I don't want to confirm it by saying that we're investigating it. And I'm sorry I have to draw that line. I just think that's the right way to be.
Just a few days ago, meanwhile, Comey impugned Hillary Clinton aide Huma Abedin, dramatically exaggerating the number of emails she'd forwarded to her laptop and that of her husband, Anthony Weiner.
She forwarded hundreds and thousands of emails, some of which contain classified information.
Now, at times, both Republicans and Democrats in Washington seemed to appreciate the help that Comey gave them, but over time, his behavior was turning the Bureau, the FBI, into a key political player, and that's the one thing it is not supposed to be. By the end, it just got strange. Often in the course of a single conversation, you'd hear Democrats praise Comey for not indicting Hillary Clinton, then blame him for her defeat in November, and then turn around again and laud him for his Russia investigation in the hopes that he'd be able to bring down the president. Rarely has there been less principle on display in Washington. That's not all Jim Comey's fault, but he definitely didn't help. What this firing ought to remind us is that ultimately real power in a democracy resides with the voters. When unaccountable forces, whether they're at the CIA or Planned Parenthood or Exxon or the Department of Justice in this case, start making our biggest public policy decisions, we risk losing our democracy. Dictatorship by the unelected, that is the real threat to this country and our traditions. Let's be honest. This firing of James Comey was overdue, and everybody in Washington knows that. Comey was unfit for the office he held. The new president should have canned him the afternoon of the inauguration, but he didn't. Comey was too eccentric to run the FBI and too powerful for any of us to breathe easily while he was there. Just how powerful was James Comey? Let's put it this way. He was feared in a way that no appointed bureaucrat should ever be feared in a free society. Time and again, elected lawmakers on both sides came on this show and expressed worry and concern about his behavior. But they did so only during commercial breaks with the cameras off. Why? Because they were terrified at the prospect of criticizing him in public. They certainly don't have that fear of the sitting president of the United States, and that tells you everything you need to know about Jim Comey. Well, for more on the downfall of the FBI director, we're joined tonight by Fox News Chief White House correspondent John Roberts. Hey, John.
Hey, good evening to you, Tucker. And what we're trying to ascertain at this point is exactly when all of this began. We're told that this really was the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's call, that he was confirmed on April the 25th, and then upon taking the office, he started reviewing the case and came to the conclusion that he had lost confidence in James Comey. But I asked a senior White House official just a little while ago, was that the first order of business, was to review whatever file there might be and decide that you don't have confidence in the FBI director, or does this go back a long way before that? The White House official I talked to didn't know how long that it went back, but clearly this is something that Rosenstein has been thinking about. Now, you could take it all the way back to July of last year when President Trump was saying some rather unkind things about Comey after he said that Hillary Clinton should not face prosecution for mishandling her emails. But it does seem to be more recent than that, because if you take a look at this picture here, this was shortly after the inauguration. President Trump calls out James Comey, gives him a little bit of a bro hug, whisper in the ear, a big happy handshake. Man, that guy is tall. And James Comey seemed to be okay. And as he said at Boston College, which he just played, he's going to be there for another 6.5 years. Sean Spicer was asked this afternoon whether or not the president still had confidence in James Comey. He hummed and hawed a little bit, which was a tad unusual, and said, well, I haven't asked the president about that. If he had asked him, I guess he would have found that the president had lost confidence, because he sent that letter to Jim Comey this afternoon. One copy was delivered electronically. Another was hand-delivered to the FBI by Keith Schiller, who was the president's longtime chief of security, but he was not there to get it. One other point in that letter that the president said, well, I greatly appreciate you informing me on 3 separate occasions. I'm not under investigation. I nevertheless concur with the judgment of the Department of Justice that you're not able to effectively lead the Bureau. That picked up a lot of people's attention. But, Tucker, I'm told that what the president was saying there was, even though you said favorable things about me, don't think that that's going to allow you to skate here. You're still fired. Tucker?
Apparently that's the case. John, thanks a lot. Joe DeGenova is a former U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. He's been in and around the Justice Department for an awfully long time, and he joins us tonight on the set. Nice to see you tonight, Joe. So the outrage machine is at 10 in Washington. Yes. Some are calling this a coup. Put it in perspective for us. Why did this happen?
It happened because James Comey should have been fired. He was the FBI director, and he acted like he was the attorney general, even the president of the United States. He violated every known rule of the Department of Justice about how an investigator is supposed to conduct himself. And for that, he usurped the powers of the attorney general on July 5th, 2016. And from there on in, he was no longer able to lead the FBI. And his testimony last week before the Senate was viewed by many as so bizarre, so self-indulgent, so self-righteous, that many people believed he had really lost it and could no longer effectively function as the leader of the FBI, and they were absolutely correct.
So the statement of last July, in the middle of a presidential race, is at the heart of why the White House says they dismissed it.
Unequivocally.
Okay, so what was wrong with that statement exactly?
When he said that Hillary Clinton was in fact guilty, but that no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute her, and when he misspoke about what the law was of the statute that he alleged she might have violated, he usurped the function of the attorney general. He took over the powers that did not belong to him. He was unauthorized to do that. He was out of control, and everybody in the department knew it. Whatever you may think of Loretta Lynch, and she was a lowly attorney general by virtue of her conduct, she should have been given the opportunity to make that decision or to delegate it to someone else in the department to do. James Comey had no right to do that. He knew it, and everybody else knew it. He interjected himself because he wanted to be a hero. He wanted this to be about James Comey. He wanted to save Hillary Clinton's candidacy, and that's exactly why he did it. He did it for political and self-aggrandizement reasons.
It did seem like there was an awful lot of editorial comment in a lot of the statements that he made. We're not used to seeing that from FBI directors. Have you seen it from an FBI director?
I have never, ever seen an FBI director behave this way, speak this way, look this way, carry himself this way. Just think back in your mind. Can you conceive of J. Edgar Hoover getting in front of a congressional committee and mouthing the words that James Comey mouthed?
So if you're right that Comey is motivated by his grandiose sense of himself,
yes,
then he's now a free agent. He can say whatever he wants. His contract's been terminated. He's giving a speech apparently tonight in Los Angeles, and if he does, we'll take it live, of course. What do you expect him to say about this?
It's hard to tell because he is so self-centered and so full of himself that God only knows what he's going to say. If he were smart, which I'm not sure he is, he would disappear for a while, but I'm not sure he has it in him. What he may do is make common cause with the Democrats and try to save his reputation, whatever that is, by making common cause with that and saying he should not have been fired. How he will be able to do that, is, to me, I have no idea.
Well, it seems that would be an odd posture to take, since Democrats have said since the day it happened that his statement about Hillary Clinton was both unfair and hurt her chances at election, both of which strike me as likely true. How can they join in common cause with him at this point?
Because Democrats can do anything. They are not bound by principle. As they say in the business, if you cannot rely on them to think about principle. For them, this is about an advantage. This is about taking advantage of a situation. And more important than anything else, it is important to resist the president, tear him down, and criticize him for this decision. You know, it's what you say about Democrats is true. If it weren't for double standards, they'd have no standards at all.
So this is going to breathe new life into the Russia conspiracy.
Oh, among Democrats, it will clearly make them enthralled with the idea that the president has done something untoward here to protect himself.
I wonder why the president didn't fire this guy day one.
I wondered that myself, but, you know, I think the president was feeling the joy and the thrill of being the president of the United States and was magnanimous and thought maybe there was a chance to save this man. But on the road to Damascus, Comey killed himself.
Joe DeGenova, thanks for joining us tonight.
You bet.
Well, a bunch of Democrats have been quick to condemn Comey's firing despite his role in Hillary Clinton's misfortunes. Just last year, days before the presidential vote, Comey sent a letter to Congress announcing that, quote, in connection with an unrelated case, the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. Although the FBI cannot assess whether or not this material may be significant, and I cannot predict how long it will take us to complete this additional work, I believe it is important to update your committees about our efforts. Zach Kansas is a Democratic strategist and former advisor to the DNC, and he joins us tonight. Zach, I was not a Hillary voter, as you know.
Yes.
But I thought, and I said so at the time on TV, that was one of the most unfair things I've ever seen in public life. To accuse someone of misdoing non-specifically prevents that person from responding. And that's exactly what he did to Hillary Clinton. With that in mind, why in the world would you support him continuing as FBI director?
No, look, I am not going to sit here and defend James Comey or his actions, but I don't know how you can sit there and defend the timing of this announcement. The fact that it's happening 2 days before James Comey testifies before the Senate Intelligence Committee, the fact that it happened 6 days after Sean Spicer was asked whether the president has confidence in James Comey, and he said yes, that it happens several months after Donald Trump blew James Comey a kiss in the Oval Office. That it happened several months after he says, and I quote, I was not his fan, but I'll tell you what he did, he brought back his reputation. He brought it back. The day that James Comey.
How can I don't have to defend it, actually, because I don't work for the White House. That's the beauty of this job. I don't know what led to this. We don't know the whole story yet. I do know, and I've thought for a long time, that he was unsuited to be the director of the FBI, that he had too much power, and that he wielded it in an irresponsible way. And so as an American citizen, I'm happy that he's not running the FBI. Why wouldn't you be happy about that?
I'm certainly not going to disagree with you that James Comey abused his power. However, the timing of this announcement right now is incredibly suspect, and I'm not the only one who agrees with that.
There's a whole channel based on this conspiracy.
Republican Senator John McCain just released a statement saying that he's concerned about it. Republican Congressman Justin Amash just came out and said that he's concerned about it and is calling for an independent investigation. Senator Richard Burr, the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Republican head of there, he just said he's concerned about the timing of this.
I have no doubt everything you said is true.
This is not about Democrats saying this. This is about Republicans and Democrats coming together and saying this stinks.
But also at some point, isn't it about the rest of us, the 330 million people who live in this country and who want to make certain that the chief investigator of the most powerful law enforcement agency in the world is sane, sober, predictable, responsible, isn't doing weird things, isn't misusing his power.
I agree.
Shouldn't our first concern be, is this guy a good FBI director? Demonstrably not.
Why wasn't this the concern of Donald Trump during the transition?
Why wasn't this the concern of Donald Trump during January?
Why is it happening now? Why is it happening today? Why aren't they waiting? There is actually an Inspector General investigation that is going on right now into James Comey's conduct. Why aren't they waiting for the results of that? Why is it happening today, 2 days before he goes and speaks before the Senate Intelligence Committee? Why is that? Can you answer the timing of that?
As I said, I have no knowledge of any of that. It's not my job to answer those questions.
But you're sitting here and you're defending this decision by this White House.
No. I'm not defending it. I'm applauding it because clearly this guy was not suited to run the FBI. And I don't think that every decision ought to be filtered through the lens of partisan politics. Some things are more important. Like, the guy who has this much power ought to be a trustworthy person.
I agree.
And he's clearly not.
I agree, but that's why Democrats and Republicans are now condemning this White House for this clear abuse of power.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. I have just named 3 of them, and that's just because I was on the Uber ride over here. That's all I could find. But there are going to be more that are coming out tonight.
Look, trust me. I've lived here a long time. I know how intense the hysteria can get. People are calling it. One of my neighbors calling it a coup, actually, a minute ago, pathetically.
But you were just saying it was just Democrats, but it's not. It's Republicans too.
I'm willing to believe that.
I mean, the last segment was just about hitting Democrats.
Hold on. My only point is that your first concern always ought to be what's best for the country, not what's best for my team or their team, or how does this play in the midterm elections, but like, is this good for the country?
Where was the White House's concern about this during the transition?
I have no idea. As I said then, and I said tonight, they ought to have fired him immediately, but they didn't. I'm glad they finally did. So here's my point. Are you going to say, man, I wish they hadn't fired Jim Comey? Is that your position?
Again, I said I am certainly not going to sit here and defend Jim Comey.
So you're glad they fired him, but you're upset they fired him?
No, I am questioning. I joined John McCain and Justin Amash and Richard Burr in questioning the timing of this announcement.
That sentence buys you no credibility on this show. Let me just say it doesn't
Justin
mean anything
Amash,
to me.
A member of the House Freedom Caucus.
I like all 3 of them. But that's not.
Or Richard Burr doesn't buy your credibility.
That's not the same as making an argument. Okay, invoking people's names is not the same as having a cogent case.
But your argument was that this is simply a partisan attack by Democrats to attack this White House. And I'm saying that is absolutely baloney, given the fact that Republicans are now coming out and hitting this White House.
All I'm asking is a very simple question. Are you glad he got fired or not? Should he be running the FBI or not? It's really simple.
I have been very vocal in my criticism of James Comey.
So he shouldn't be running the FBI, but you're mad he's not running the FBI.
This has nothing to do with whether James Comey is good or not, good for the FBI or not.
So the outcome doesn't matter.
No, this is about the timing. If the White House was sincere in their belief.
So you wish they'd fired him at some other time?
I wish that they would have taken action, another appropriate actions at a time.
Look,
yes,
we've done a ton of segments about the Russia conspiracy and Putin having dinner with Ivanka or whatever that conspiracy suggests.
I haven't heard that one.
But tonight, the President of the United States just canned the FBI director, and people are wondering, is this good or bad? They're confused, legitimately confused. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just trying to get the perspective of a former DNC spokesman. When I ask you, do you think Jim Comey should still be running the FBI or not? It's a really simple question.
I am not a fan of Jim Comey.
Okay,
but
you're glad he's fired?
But this move by the White House was to try to kill the Russia investigation, nothing more.
I guess why I was so looking forward to seeing you tonight is because a lot of our viewers don't live in Washington, and they don't understand the way people here think. They don't understand that it's possible to be happy that a person got fired, but simultaneously mad about it. Because they're kind of logical, normal people. They don't have reactions like that. So I wanted to see yours.
I don't know how you could defend the timing of this announcement. It's clearly part of a cover-up.
I'm not defending it. But I'm glad to see you, as always, and that was deeply revealing.
Thank you, Tucker.
Good to see you.